Alright, hello and welcome to my monthly new Patreon Q&A video where I'll be answering all the questions that my Patreon supporters have asked me for the month of January 2018. And oh, I better put that out of the way, you can see what I'm doing. So I decided to do this monthly Patreon thing where I could do a Q&A. I want to offer more to my patrons, and not to say that I won't answer questions from my regular viewers, of course. I mean, if you comment on my videos, you should realize that I reply to pretty much almost all of them anyway, so this is just a guarantee that I'll answer any questions that my patrons have in video form. So we're going to get to them now. Most of them were supplied through my Facebook group for the Patreon supporters, which has been kind of fun. I've been posting some updates there of the 24-hour movie marathon I'm currently doing. So, Daniel Smith asks these questions, and I haven't really looked at any of these. I'm not going to edit this video, so this is going to be a free-flowing, full of flubs, no doubt, video where I kind of just rattle off all the questions and try to answer them to the best of my ability. Alright, so Daniel Smith asks, and he asked through Patreon, not Facebook, do you have a driving license? No. I learned to drive when I was about 15 with my grandpa's old car, but I never pursued it. I was going to get lessons, and then it got held up, and I wasn't that interested, and it's never really come up again since. So no, I don't have a driving license. Do you plan on getting a Switch, a Nintendo Switch? At some point. I was intrigued by it when it was first announced, you know, this new Nintendo console. Always intrigued by new consoles, you know, love games. Not so much a gamer, but I do really like games. Carney loves them too, so we were interested in the aspect of it being portable, things like that, but the library just wasn't there. When it first came out, it launched with Zelda Breath of the Wild, but that was it. The new Mario game, Mario Odyssey, wasn't coming out until the end of the year. It just didn't seem worth it. Had I known how great Breath of the Wild was going to be, I might have pushed to get the Switch, but I thought that Breath of the Wild was amazing on the Wii U anyway, so I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything, and I still don't really. I would like to play the new Mario game, so maybe in a year or two down the line, which is what we did with the Wii U. We waited like a few years before we got one of those, so yeah, not too, you know, big on getting to the Nintendo stuff as soon as possible, so usually whenever we get anything Nintendo related, it's a few years after the fact of it coming out initially, so at some point I think we'll definitely get it, yeah. What are your PS4 gaming plans for 2018? Star Wars Battlefront 2. That game was an addiction, but an addiction that I enjoy very much. I plow hours into it, I love it. It's one of my favorite games, one of my favorite game series, I suppose, with the previous Battlefront game as well. Not really the kind of guy who's into the new games all the time. You know, it really depends. If The Last of Us 2 is coming out this year, that'd be a big one, but I think that's going to be at least, you know, released in 2019, if not later. So, Red Dead 2 is coming out this year. I'm intrigued by that. I loved the first one. That was an amazing game. So, I think I'd need to rewatch the Dollars trilogy before I play that, because that's what I did with the original Red Dead Redemption, and it really enhanced the experience for me. So, maybe that's something to do, but I'm not sure when that's coming out either. Apart from that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's really that big coming out this year. Feel free to let me know in the comments, anyone, what games are coming out for PS4 this year that are particularly noteworthy. But yeah, nothing really except for continuing to play Battlefront 2, and look for. Well, I need to finish getting the platinum on The Last of Us Remastered. That's why I said that. I need to finish Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I need to finish The Last Guardian. I can't remember. Need to start Horizon Zero Dawn, which I bought Connie for her birthday last year, and she still hasn't opened it. Yeah, so there we go. Are you currently watching any TV shows? Currently, no, actually. There's a few things we want to start on Netflix, maybe Dark, maybe, well, actually we need to continue Black Mirror. We've only seen a couple of episodes of that, like the first series. Apart from that, not really. I've fallen out watching The Walking Dead. Very much looking forward to Better Call Saul Season 4 coming out this year. I know that they're filming currently, so it must be coming out at some point this year. But I'm eager to get into more TV shows, as could be evidenced by the last video, which was our review of The End of the Fucking World, a new Netflix show, or originally Channel 4, regardless. I want to watch more of them, so not watching anything currently, but definitely have plans to watch more TV and to not be so confined into movie world, which is what I usually am. What is your opinion on Justice League? Personally, I thought it was dreadful. I didn't think it was dreadful. I liked it. didn't feel like it was worth making a video about because I wasn't that enthusiastic about it, and I don't really want to make a video saying this movie sucked or this movie wasn't that good. You know, I tend to only really make reviews if I enjoyed a film, really. I mean, that's probably not the best way to be a reviewer, but for me, it's my channel, I'm going to do what I want, and I don't feel like really ragging on a film for too long, unless I really feel passionate about it. I thought that they really made a big mistake with Henry Cavill and bringing him back for reshoots with the mustache and deciding to digitally replace his mouth. It looks awful. It took me out of almost every scene that he's in, and so I think there's some really cool things that happen in Justice League with Superman, but I was just completely distracted by his fake mouth, which looked awful as far as I was concerned. I just think, why not just pay Paramount, you know, a few grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, to buy the most realistic fake mustache ever and just have him. You'd save so much money, but I guess maybe Paramount weren't budging, I'm not sure. It really harmed the film because so much of it was about Superman coming back, and then his mouth looks really weird. And to me, it stuck out like a sore thumb. I was looking for it, but at the same time, it was so obvious that it was a big issue. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. It just wasn't that overly memorable. I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. She's fantastic. I think she so embodies the role. To me, she's like a Christopher Reeve as Superman. She's just so perfectly suited to it, and people didn't think she would be when she was cast. Like, oh, she hasn't got big enough tits, you know, and that really didn't matter. Not even just the physical resemblance, but just I don't know, there's a different flavour to it, you know, where she's from and her accent and stuff, and her look. Obviously, she's beautiful, but there's just this perfect storm of her playing Wonder Woman, I think, that really works. And I loved the Wonder Woman standalone film, so I really enjoyed Justice League just because I really like her as a character, and I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. I don't think he's a very good Batman or even a great Batman, but I think he's enjoyable to watch in the role. I like the physical aspect of him as Batman, though again, there were scenes where I noticed they had digitally thinned him. I know they did reshoots and he has a kind of fluctuating body weight, and I don't know, it just looked like they tried to make him look thinner in the neck in one scene, and it just looked awful. The villain was just all over the place, you know. I'm kind of reviewing the whole film now, but yeah, I liked it for Batman because I'm a big Batman fan, and liked it for Wonder Woman very much. Flash was fun enough. Aquaman was okay. I forget the other guy's name, Cyborg. Just couldn't really get into his character that much. I understood it, but it just, yeah. And then even the way that Superman was brought back felt very, okay, ding, you know, fries are done. I don't know. I love the scene when Superman takes on the Justice League and the Flash runs around him and Superman's eyes just follow him. That was fucking awesome. More of that I wanted. But, you know, it was okay. You know, just nothing to write home about. Thank you, Daniel, for all the questions. Let's get back to them. Now we have from Tom. Have you ever seen a Dutch or Dutch language film? I'm not too sure, actually. This is where I probably should have looked this up before I did the Q&A. The Vanishing. Is The Vanishing Dutch? If it is, then that one. And it's a fantastic film. Incredible thriller. But I'm not sure if it is Dutch. Either way, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, unfortunately. Number 2, who's your favourite Dutch movie person? Examples: Paul Verhoeven, Rutger Hauer, Famke Janssen, Rebecca Romaine, Carice van Houten, Hoyt van Hoytema. Well, from those, I would definitely gravitate towards Paul Verhoeven. I love some of his films, in particular Total Recall for me. Rutger Hauer, I had to go with him, I think, because he is just... And I can't even say I've seen him in that much, but Blade Runner, that's all that matters to me. That is one of the most memorable movie performances of all time, in my opinion. Rutger Hauer's performances, Roy Batty in Blade Runner, he's just transcendent in that film. It's just like, it's so captivating, it's so gripping. Every single second he's on screen in Blade Runner is just captivating to me every single time. So I guess it would be Rutger Hauer. Number 3, what's the favourite movie of you and Connie? That's a good one. I'm trying to think of films we've seen together that we both loved, but I think it might go to You've Got Mail. I think we both love that film so much, and we love watching it together. We went to all the locations when we were in New York, so we got a big love for that film. And yeah, I think we both equally love that film. And yeah, You've Got Mail. I think that's going to be the one. Number 4, what's your favourite Welsh film? pretty shitty city. I don't know actually. There's a few Welsh films. There's not many that I've seen. I would go with Submarine, which isn't a Welsh film. It is and it isn't. I mean, how do you class it as a Welsh film? Does a Welsh director need to have made it or not? I'm not sure. There's a film called Submarine, directed by Richard Ayoade, who is English as far as I'm aware, and it's his directorial debut. I think I've seen all of his films. The Double was a really good one, but Submarine is set in Wales and has, you know, obviously Welsh characters and stuff, and so that to me is a Welsh film. And some of the scenes were shot in my hometown. In fact, 5 minutes from where I used to live. So I think I even did like a little scene comparison of that years ago in an old review I did of Submarine. I really loved Submarine. It felt kind of Wes Anderson without feeling too derivative, and yeah, something about that film that was really drew me in when I first watched it, and so I guess that would be my favourite Welsh film. There's something else that's jumping out at me. The guy who stars in Submarine, I forget his name now, Welsh actor, he made a film called Just Jim a couple of years ago, which was really good. I enjoyed that, but I wouldn't say it's my favourite, so Submarine it is. If you haven't seen it, look it up and maybe check it out. It's a very good film. And what's your favourite British film? Oh my god, that's a really tough one. There's so many. Dead Man's Shoes immediately jumps out at me. Shaun of the Dead probably actually is going to be my favourite, I think, in terms of British movies. There's a lot of them, but yeah, Shaun of the Dead I think would be my favourite. I have a lot of fond memories of that film, and I think it's a great British film. But there are many others that are probably more great than Shaun of the Dead as far as British movies go, but yeah, Dead Man's Shoes really jumps out as a proper British film that's just incredible, and Shaun of the Dead. Thank you for all the questions. Alex asks, this isn't aimed at you personally, but should people that have Patreon supporters support other Patreons? Having so many subs, at least to us little channels, how do you decide which to subscribe to? Oh, I guess this is a different question. I'll leave that one halfway through. So, should people that have Patreon supporters support other Patreons? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's all dependent. It's such an open question, really. I would like to pledge, and I'm planning on pledging to a couple of people on Patreon in the next coming months, I think. But you know, it can be difficult at times. I mean, $1 a month is kind of a pledge that doesn't really have any impact. You know, you can kind of easily part with that once a month. But yeah, I don't think just because you have a Patreon and you have supporters on Patreon that you should not support anyone else. I don't think that really makes any difference. It's all about who you want to support and why, I think, is the key thing. Okay, having so many subs, at least to us little channels, how do you decide which to subscribe to, and how many channels do you always watch the time whenever they upload a video? Okay, so comparatively to some of the smaller channels, I have a lot more subs, I guess, just over 3,000. And how do I decide which channel to subscribe to, and how many channels do I watch every video of when they upload one? Okay, I decide to subscribe to a channel if I really like the videos and want to keep up with them. There are quite a few channels who I don't subscribe to, but I kind of check in every now and again to see what videos they put up, because otherwise my subscription box just gets really clogged up and full, and I miss things. But then I miss things anyway. There's so many videos that I just keep scrolling on, even though I would like to see them in an ideal world, but I just don't have the time. And most people probably say that, and could say that on my videos too. And you've got to kind of pick and choose, I think. There's so much variety on YouTube, you know. How do you decide which ones to prioritize, which one not to? I've been trying to utilize the watch later function a lot, because I'll be doing some yoga or the dishes and I need something to listen to kind of keep me occupied, and I'll go onto YouTube and go, what can I watch? And I've got nothing prepared. So I'm only kind of scrolling through the past couple of days of content. But if I keep clicking that watch later button, I can kind of have a playlist and kind of get to the stuff that I want to watch at a later date. So I've been trying to do that more. But yeah, there are many channels that I don't subscribe to, simply because they post a lot of videos I know I won't watch, but I do want to keep up with their videos now and then, so I'll always keep it on my mind to go and check them out. But otherwise, the other part of the question, which channel do I watch every video of? Right now, probably only Battlefront updates. A Swedish guy who does these news updates and gameplay videos of Star Wars Battlefront 2. The channel is called Battlefront Updates, but he does a lot of live streams. I don't watch all of those, so I guess I can't even say that. I really don't keep up with every video of anyone, really. Maybe Ryan Chataway, because he hasn't posted as many videos lately. CP, actually. But then again, CP does these streams, and I don't really watch all of them all the time. So, but as far as regular videos, I'd probably say CP, Will I Like It reviews, Ryan Chataway, Battlefront updates. Not much else really. Again, I really pick and choose. Someone like Ian, I forget what his channel name is even called now. It used to be Forkable. You know, I always try and keep up with his videos, but inevitably I'll miss things. So I don't think there's anyone I really 100% watch everything from, because it's almost impossible. Well, it's not impossible, but it's just you know, there's so much more I'm doing. I guess I get busy. The next question is final question. If you got invited into the Criterion Vault, which films would you pick? Everyone, as Gary Oldman would say. I don't know. You get a tote bag, right, and you can fill it up, and it's so funny to see the various people who go into the Criterion closet, and they're like, oh, no, I don't want to, you know, take too much. And then you got someone like Alfonso Cuarón, who's just like, here, take this. He's got his friend there in there with him, and they're all like filling the bag up to bursting. And then Barry Jenkins, director of Moonlight, recently went into the Criterion closet, and he said, oh, this is terrible, and he kind of emptied his bag on the floor, and was just like, my bag of shame, you know, because he took so many. What would I take? Oh, I don't know, Criterion wise, I want to fill in my Wes Anderson collection. I want to get all the Chaplins that I haven't got. There's a couple of Kurosawa that I need. Japanese titles I think I'd gravitate towards. Probably some of the bigger expensive box sets. There's the Jacques Demy collection I'd really like to get stuck into. There's the Jacques Tati collection I'd really like to get stuck into as well. There's some of those bigger ones. I definitely want to grab the Apu trilogy. That's one that I'd love to have and own. I'd love to get that Olympic box set they just came out with. It's just so stupidly expensive, and rightfully so. It has so much material, but I can never see myself affording that. But I would love to see it, especially some of the ones that are in the book. 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. There's a couple of those Olympic movies, and just the history of it, 100 years of Olympic films, and just the various different styles that have been done over the years to capture those Olympic events. I'd love to see them, but it's just so huge. It's a mammoth set, and they probably wouldn't have, I guess they don't have the AK Akira Kurosawa 100 collection. That's a gorgeous box set that I've always wanted, but it's completely out of print and very expensive. Otherwise, there's so many Criterions, but I guess those ones would be the key ones I'd look for to kind of fill in some of those collections and so on. Thank you, Alex, for the questions. Then we have Nick, who asks, was watching In Time the other day. It got me thinking, what great movie premises that are done badly. I didn't hate In Time, but it's such a good idea that just wasn't well put together. Another one I watched was Bright on Netflix. Fabulous premise, bad execution. Can you think of any movie that had a great premise but that was poorly executed? I loved In Time, actually, when that came out. I've only seen it since it was released. I bought it on Blu-ray and never watched it again, but I really, as you say, it's a great premise, and I think it was done pretty well. Could probably have been done better, I suppose. So a movie that I've seen that had a great premise that was done badly. There's one in the 24-hour movie marathon this year that I thought had a really good premise, but perhaps wasn't executed the best, so I won't spoil that. Think of another one. Oh, Netflix. There you go. Death Note. The Netflix original Death Note from last year. Shit. And I rarely say that, but it was a shit film. I did a whole movie vlog on it, where if you want to see that, maybe I'll link it at the end of this video, where I just kind of, I couldn't believe how bad it was at parts. Like, and I love the concept that a guy who gets a book and you can write a note, write someone's name in it, the Death Note, and they will die. So much potential with that, and I liked where they started to go with it, but the acting was pretty ropey, and then just where it went was just, that could have had a lot of potential, I thought, personally. Although some people would say, well, it's a Netflix movie, so it's not meant to be a proper movie. It's just a TV movie, which I disagree with. Anyway, any more I can think of with a great premise, but executed poorly? I don't know. There's loads, I suppose, and it probably would have served me well to read these questions properly in my mind before I did the video. But Death Note really stands out. If I can think of anything else, I'll let you know. I think that was his only question. Thank you for the question. And then we have Jody Wood. What movies do you love now that on first viewing you hated or at least disliked? A movie that I love now that I disliked initially. I can't think of one, to be honest. Usually my instincts serve me well, I guess. I don't know. That sounded awfully superior, didn't it? You know, well, my instincts serve me well. No, I don't know. Something I just didn't like, and then Blade Runner. Perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Well, I don't know if you wanted an answer where I disliked it as an adult and then liked it still as an adult, but Blade Runner I watched when I was a kid. Awful. Oh, turned it off after 20 minutes. Couldn't stand it. So boring. You know, this isn't Han Solo. This isn't fun. This isn't exciting. There isn't action. This is shit. And I took it back. Bought it from a second-hand shop, went home, watched it all excited, 20 minutes, turned it off, popped the video back in the case, went back down to the shop and sold it back and lost money on it, and then realised that second-hand shops will rip you off. So I had my first experience of that. But yeah, Blade Runner, I guess. I ended up loving it when I watched it 5 years ago. Watched it with my cousin Ben. I was like, hey, let's watch this. I watched it once, had a bad experience, but hopefully I enjoy it now. Loved it, and it's become one of my absolute favourite films of all time. So that's a big example of a tonal shift of not liking and then liking. Number 2, what are your favourite films about music? Almost Famous is an awesome one. I haven't seen that in so long. I love Almost Famous. If you want to count documentaries, I think that Some Kind of Monster, the Metallica documentary, is fucking phenomenal. And you can look at it and go, oh, look at it, it's millionaires moping around about their problems and their issues. But hey, everyone has their issues, and it's such a fucking compelling piece of real life storytelling. You know, that arc that from the beginning of that movie to the end is really incredible, and it is the way they've constructed the film. But the story as it happens is so gripping. I've read the book on the making of the film, which was really interesting too. I love that film. But movies about music and maybe musicians. I keep thinking of documentaries again. The one about Amy Winehouse is excellent. The what was that? The Nirvana guy. I've forgotten his name. Kurt Cobain. There was one that was kind of comprised of his like diaries and stuff, and it was like animation and things. I've reviewed it. That was a fantastic one. But I'm trying to think of like proper movies that fictional, or at least kind of adapting stuff, and films about musicians. I'm not sure. Almost Famous is one that really... I'm going to try and go back to these and maybe do a couple of additional thoughts at the end and kind of really think about some of these questions that I feel like I'm shortchanging. Number 3, which, if any, non-movie YouTubers do you watch? Obviously Battlefront Updates, as I said. I like his videos, and I'm a big Battlefront 2 fan right now, so it's timely and appropriate for me to watch those videos. Non-movie YouTubers that I watch... There's some writing YouTube channels that I occasionally watch. I find their videos very helpful when I'm writing and stuff, and are going to be invaluable when I start to try and get published and things like that. Lots of information, some great channels, but I don't tend to watch them that often. There is Muggle Sam, which again I rarely watch their videos. These two young girls who were doing YouTube since they were kids, basically. Obviously their parents are behind it, and just some adorable videos when they were young. And it's just been kind of cool to see them grow up a little bit. But I rarely click on the videos. Yeah, I don't know. It's not many. Really, primary. Here we go. Darren Locke. How could I forget? Darren Locke absolutely is the one channel that I watch the most. Who isn't a movie YouTuber? He does movie reviews occasionally, but he's primarily a music channel. And again, I rarely watch his main content. I hardly watch any of his music reviews because it's stuff I've never heard of, never listened to, and probably never will. But if he reviews a Pink Floyd album, I'm there. If he reviews a Rush album, I'm there. If he reviews something that I'm interested in, I'm there. But I like his kind of candid videos. You know, I enjoy his personality and his wit and his presentation of videos. And so I always watch. I've been watching his videos since I think 2011. So always interested. I mean, even if it's just a video of him talking about a story in his life for like half an hour, I really enjoy that stuff. So. And I guess there are vloggers that I like, but usually it's movies are involved too, I suppose. So yeah, there you go. And then finally we have... Oh no, we have quite a few more. Alright. Oh my god, there's loads more. Jesus Christ. Well, that's great. It's going to be a long video. David asks, how is the Eric Roma viewing going? The retrospective came to a juddering halt pretty quickly. Yes. How's it going? It isn't. There's one review I haven't finished yet, actually. There's one that I need to get back to edit, basically. I did the review, watched the film. I think it was Suzanne's Career, something like that. So I need to review, or not review, to edit the review for that one and get that up. But there's just so many other things have been going on. I did my Asian cinema season, and there's a couple of other marathons I'm doing, so I will get back to that eventually, but I mean, God, it's me. I always start things that I hardly ever finish, so I will finish that though at one point, so There's a few things I know I'll never finish, like my Massive Cinema Marathon. That's just never going to get back off the ground. But the Roma retrospective videos will return, but I don't know when, or even if this year. God knows. I only have so much time, I guess, but I always like to bite off more than I can chew with starting series. Alex again asks, who are some of your favourite musicians and genres outside of film scores and soundtracks? Mainly rock music, you know, Pink Floyd, Rush are my two favourite bands. Pretty much tied, I would guess. Maybe Pink Floyd just by a little bit. I love John Lennon, not so much the Beatles, but I love some of John Lennon's solo stuff. My head is completely in the past when it comes to music. Fleetwood Mac, I recently rediscovered Rumours all over again. I've listened to it about fucking 350 times in the past couple of months. That's just almost a perfect album, I think. But yeah, genre is just rock mainly, I guess. I like bluesy stuff too, but it's not stuff I listen to independently. You know, old kind of rock and roll stuff. My dad was in an old rock and roll band, rockabilly style. I enjoyed that purely by being around him and being at the gigs and things like that. But yeah, I really developed a much bigger appreciation for music in my 20s. I used to love pop music when I was a kid. I loved pop music, loved all that, like Now This Is Music, whatever, those compilations and all the pop stuff, you know, best songs in 1998. I'd love Alanis Morissette. I've never really enjoyed her music post like 1998, but I love that golden period in the middle there, where she did Jagged Little Pill and Supposed Former Infatuation Junkie. Especially the first one, Jagged Little Pill, one of my favourite albums ever. Just something so deep-rooted about that album that is so intrinsically linked with my life in many different ways. I'm not going to go into here because it gets really complicated, I suppose, but that's one that it's not really a musician or an artist that I'm a big fan. I guess I'm a big fan of her, but I don't like anything really she did beyond that. It's just that one album and some songs from the one after that, I suppose. You know, I love, like, there's certain metal as well, you know, but I don't like to some of that darker stuff, you know, nah, not at all, hate that stuff. But progressive stuff as well. There's just lots I haven't discovered too at the same time. And I like to kind of discover a band and then just do a real deep dive on them, you know. But again, don't really have the time to really do that. You know, David Gilmour from Pink Floyd is one of my favourite, probably my favourite musician ever, I think. So that's one. But again, that falls into Pink Floyd and, you know, Rush and so on. Not that Pink Floyd and Rush are similar at all, but I mean, you know, that aspect of me really enjoying those bands and genres. I'm liking the new kind of synth wave or retro wave, whatever you want to call it, the movement that's been happening over the past few years, at least in a mainstream sense, through things like maybe Stranger Things and other 80s movies, 80s themed and set movies that are kind of bringing back those synth score, It Follows and all that kind of stuff. And I actually have been discovering a lot of stuff on YouTube that kind of is just this kind of the retro wave, things like that. Just again, electronic kind of synthy stuff. Love that. So yeah, there you go. That's enough, I think, for that question. And I think you had another one. Will you ever do a house tour video? No, we don't have a big place, and so there's a lot of mess. So well, it's not messy, but it's clutter, I think, would be the right way. It's like one of those hoarding programs, but there's a lot of stuff. So I thank you again for the questions. Chris from the Good Bit Podcast, cheap plug there. If you're given the challenge to watch the same movie and the same wrestling show every week for an entire year, which would be your choices? For example, every Monday for a year, Jaws. Every Tuesday for a year, AJ Styles versus Cena. I already asked him about this, and I've already forgotten what he meant exactly. If you're given the challenge to watch the same movie and the same... Okay, so I'm just going to go with a movie and a wrestling show every week, not one for every day of the week, if that's what he means. Right, okay, so a movie every week of the year for a year. Immediately I think of Aliens or Blade Runner. Yeah. I mean, I was able to watch The Last Jedi 8 times in about 3 weeks, and I still want to watch that again, so that could be one, but... well, every week, so that's about 52 viewings of a year. Ooh. You would get sick of it. You would get sick of it. Blade Runner. I'll go Blade Runner, because I love Blade Runner, but I wouldn't want to ruin Aliens for myself. Yeah, although I wouldn't want to ruin Blade Runner for myself either. Ooh, I don't know. It's tough. Maybe something like Wayne's World. Just a proper... No. I got it. I got it. I got it. Right, forget all that. Push that all to the side. Groundhog Day, motherfucker. That is the one. That is the one. Groundhog Day. Give me that every week of the year for the rest of my life, and I would gladly watch it and kind of slowly go more insane, and kind of, it would be like a big kind of like performance art project watching Groundhog Day over and over again for the rest of your life. That'd be my pick. And wrestling show, ooh, I'm trying to think of a shorter one because it wouldn't take up too much time, but it'd have to be WrestleMania, right? It'd have to be WrestleMania. Ooh, WrestleMania 2000 was a special one. That was my first proper WrestleMania. Or I could go WrestleMania 30, the one I was at. Or I could go WrestleMania 25, that has one of my favourite matches ever. Ah, it's tough. WrestleMania 19 is my favourite. I'll go WrestleMania 30. There's a lot of variation there in a lot of ways, with big highs, big lows, and a lot of emotions. And I was there in person, so it has special added elements. So I think I'll go WrestleMania 30. There we go. Thanks for the questions, Chris. And then we have, I think this is from Scott Cineram. Name favourite actors or actresses who are currently working who play intimidating or threatening characters. In other words, who's best at it. Cite at least one performance from each. Yes, teacher. Okay. I would say Javier Bardem is incredible at playing an intimidating or threatening character. No Country for Old Men, enough said. But also Skyfall in a completely different way. So he has variety too. So yeah, I would go with him for actor. Actress who can play intimidating or threatening. Well, what's her name? She was in Django Unchained, and then also the new Twin Peaks. Jennifer Jason Leigh. She has an edge to her. She has a real edge to her that is kind of loose cannon-y, I think. So I think she would be pretty good in most roles in that sort of a intimidating fashion, I think. So yeah, I'd go with those two. I really like them a lot in pretty much everything I see them in, so I'd go with those two. Number 2, what underappreciated director is most deserving of a career boost, if living, or career retrospective if deceased? Well, a career retrospective if deceased, maybe Billy Wilder, because I rarely hear people talking about. I know that he's hugely respected. I know that people who are really into film love Billy Wilder, but I've never really heard much about him. Never really heard him as one of those guys, and I've seen a number of his films from the 40s, 50s, and 60s that have just knocked me dead, especially recently. And I'm just kind of blown away with how many great films he really did make, and I've never really been that aware of him as one of the greats. And from what I've seen, it seems like he's one of the greats. So I guess that for career retrospective. A current living director who's deserving of a career boost. Someone who's maybe full. I don't know. I want to say Richard Linklater, but I feel like he's always going to be bound to that kind of just making his own movies, and not a lot of people are going to be that interested in them. And Boyhood was where he got kind of catapulted into the mainstream a bit with the whole concept and the Oscars and stuff. But you look at Before Midnight, that's not really a film the mainstream was excited for. I don't know. I can't really think of anyone properly. Again, maybe if I can think of something else, I'll add it at the end. Thank you for the questions, man. And then finally, Ryan Chataway asks, favourite Fritz Lang film? Woman in the Moon. Love Metropolis, love M. He's made some incredible films. And Die Nibelungen is incredible. But for me, I think that Woman in the Moon is my favourite Fritz Lang film. Not his best, but my favourite. Number 2, favourite silent era actor. Oh, that's a tough one. I want to say someone like Buster Keaton, but I'm not sure if he's the best actor. But then again, it says favourite actor. Chaplin was great, but I feel like Chaplin was much better with sound. He has such a great voice and was able to command the screen more with his incredible voice, and it adds to his performance, I feel like. Favourite actor. George O'Brien, I think, the guy in Sunrise, is great. I haven't seen him in anything else, though. He's so good in Sunrise, but I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with him because he's so good in Sunrise at just conveying this darkness, but then this vulnerability, and then this joy. There's such a range of emotions he goes through in Sunrise, more so than The Wife, I feel. And he's just incredible. So I'm going to go with George O'Brien. I think that's his name. Buster Keaton's great, but we're talking acting here, I think. And Buster's more of a kind of just cinematic genius, and just the way he's able to construct these things. Favorite silent era actress? That one is easy as hell. It is Gloria. Wait, not Gloria? No, Janet Gaynor. Right, yes. Janet Gaynor, who was in Sunrise, but not for that film. I love her for films like Seventh Heaven, films like Lucky Star, Street Angel. Like Lucky Star, mainly the film she did with Charles Farrell, which was such an incredible pairing. Charles Farrell and Janet Gaynor. I kind of wish that they just become a couple in real life and had lived happily ever after for 100 years. I just love their chemistry on screen, but also the 3 films they did together in the silent era with Frank Borzage. It was different shades of romance. It wasn't the same story over and over again. You could kind of say Street Angel and Lucky Star, Street Angel and Seventh Heaven were a little bit similar, but there's different kinds of characters they're playing, but they're both always linked in those 3 films. And they did loads of films together as a romantic coupling. I watched another one from the Sound era, which wasn't as good, but she is just incredible. She was the first ever Best Actress winner at the Oscars, but something about her, and she's one of my favorite actresses of all time. She's incredible. And then we also have the final question of the Q&A. Favorite film starring Michael Keaton from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s beyond, from Ryan again. Thanks for the questions. Favorite Michael Keaton film from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I guess with the 80s it would probably be Batman, wouldn't it? But there's also Beetlejuice, there's Clean and Sober, there's so many great ones in the 80s. Batman, it's got to be Batman, I suppose. In the 90s, maybe Speechless. I mean, he didn't have many great roles in the 90s, but Speechless is one I keep coming back to. It's a really I love the feel of that film. And I love seeing Michael Keaton and Christopher Reeve have scenes together. Superman and Batman, but... and that's just, I love that film so much. What's her name? Gina Davis is so good in it. The chemistry's great. I just love everything about that film. It's not a great film, but I love romantic comedies, and that's Speechless. Oh, there's Multiplicity as well. I think Speechless might take it by just a little bit, though. So there we go. And 2000s beyond, if we're going to go to 2010s, I'd say Birdman, of course. Anything else in the 2000s, though? I've seen every one of his films. I'm trying to rack my brains if there's any in particular that... what was that one? I forget what it was now. It's the girl from Gilmore Girls, I think. Not that I've seen it, but I've seen Connie watching it, and he plays her dad, and he's so funny in it, but I've forgotten what it's called. I got no idea. But I didn't love the film, though, so it's kind of a... But either way, Birdman, Speechless, and Batman, I think. But there's so many of them that I love, so that's kind of a few springs. Oh, well, I guess you could say with the 90s it would be Porco Rosso. But then he kind of recorded that in 2003, so maybe that's the one for the 2000s, because the Disney did a dub after the fact. It all gets muddled up. So there you go, that's my Q&A for January 2018. Thank you to my Patreon supporters for those questions. I'll try and do this again at the end of every month, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I'm trying to rack my brains if there's anything else from the questions. I feel like I shortchanged a few of them. Aha, I will say, now that I've thought about it before I post the video, as far as films about music, Whiplash is a huge one. Absolutely incredible film from a couple of years ago. La La Land was great, I love that, but Whiplash, like, that really hones in on a specific piece of music making, and I don't know, I thought it really did it justice. Not that I would know, but I thought that was great. And also, as far as documentaries go, Anvil, the story of Anvil is incredible. You have to see that film if you're into music documentaries. Awesome, just awesome. And I had something else in my head as well as far as films about music, and it's gone. But there you go, Whiplash. But we'll leave it there. I haven't got much time really today because I'm still doing the 24-hour movie marathon to do more for this video. But thank you very much for the questions. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, and thank you to my viewers in general, of course. And again, don't feel like this is an exclusive thing locking anyone out. If you want to ask me a question about anything, you can do that in the comments down below, and I'll more than likely get to them. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.